It's another beautiful week, people, and I'm excited to come your way again here on the Green Living Chats podcast. My name is David, and if you listened to last week's episode where we had an interview with Nana Owusu-Achau of Kings Innovations in Ghana, then hey, stick around because we're bringing you the final part of this conversation on sustainable farming, future of Africa's agriculture. On last week's episode, Nana Owusu-Achau, who is the CEO and founder of Kings Innovation, joined us on the podcast to discuss how sustainable farming looks in Ghana, the challenges, and how the sector is moving forward. On this episode, Nana told us that
on one of my trips back to Ghana, I was reading a Forbes article or one of these magazines that are in the plane. And it was talking about how Africa was underutilizing our arable lands, that we're using about 8% of our arable lands as a continent. And I felt like that was a bit of a blow to me. In fact, I remember circling that and then sending it to a page where I was on with other Africans. This cannot be our story. So I think that was always on the recesses of my mind. When people are driven by a vision, irrespective of some of the mountains you have to climb on your way to attaining that vision, there's some level of resilience. There was a drive for me. So I did something a little different. In 2017, I started working with two gentlemen. How about you give me one or two farmers? Let me provide you the financing required to produce this level quality of rice. And that was kind of how we got started on our rice journey.
Exactly. The conversation ended when Nana was telling us about the challenges in the supply chain in this sector. So in part 2 of this conversation, Nana continues to tell us about this and their response to climate change and the mitigation methods they are adapting on their farm. We talk about their social impact and commitment in their communities. This and more in today's conversation. So let's dive quickly into this conversation. But before we do that, we just want to educate all our listeners who are listening to this podcast, especially to Ghanaians all over the world. We need to support ourselves as Ghanaians, as Africans. This is a little quota we can pay to supporting such businesses to grow and to develop together. So as you listen to this podcast, why don't you share this with someone else who can listen to the good work that Agro Kings and Kings Innovation are doing so that we can support them in any way that we can. As Nana said in this episode, they are open to collaborations along the supply chain right from planting to putting the food on our plates. So let's go, people. Just share this episode, give us a star rating or leave a comment. You could also dive into the show notes and get in touch with Kings Innovations and Agro Kings and collaborate with them. So let's dive into this conversation. Here we go. You are listening to the Green Living Chat podcast, a podcast where we discuss emerging environmental issues around the world and to find sustainable solutions. I'm your host, David Ewusi-Mensah. We use this platform to support environmental related initiatives, researches, and projects. This podcast is brought to you by EcoWamet Solutions in Ghana with a mission to going back to green. So join us on this train with new episodes this and every Sunday. Here we go. I mean, you're making it sound very easy to be doing this business in Ghana.
It's not.
Or probably on the continent. I mean, I don't want us to focus too much on the finance aspect because I know that it's always the number one issue that people talk about. I wouldn't want us to get into that. But genuinely, what are some of the loopholes that you see in this particular industry that you're working in? And what are some of the challenges that you have really faced, yet to overcome and still overcoming and overcome?
I am shaking my head because, when Brown asked the question about the supply chain, I said that, look, I will list the supply chain first. Let me not talk about the issues because every issue I can double click and it will take us time. But the loopholes are across the entire value chain. Yeah. And I think that there's something that you shared a little earlier, which maybe this would be the time to bring it on again.
Yeah.
You spoke about the idea that, it looks like the people who are making a difference are people who are coming from outside the country. And what I think is actually happening is what happens, people like me, like you go outside the country, and you see how developed the country is, and realize that the people there don't actually have green blood, or they don't walk on three legs, or they are not smarter than you. And so what happens with us is we come back with this sense of motivation and drive that we too can do something. So I think that with all these things that look like they're happening, if more and more of the youth who are out there move to the continent, a lot of these loopholes will be solved, because the loopholes are along the entire value chain. Like I spoke to you about, land preparation. With rice and most grains, land preparation is big, it's key. The machinery and equipment you need, the expertise you need, they don't exist. We cry about galamsey being a problem on the continent, specifically even in Ghana. But what do you expect the people who own excavators to do with the excavators? Because an excavator is a very expensive machine or equipment. We need it on the farm to create drains and canals so that water gets channeled through that to the crop. But the farmer does not have the money or the resources required to be able to create those canals. So when you stop galamsey, there is no work for the excavator to do. So now, if you came in from the US or came in from the UK or came in from Asia, and you realize that, I have a connect with excavators, or I have some excavators, and you look for another partner who is into farming or who's in agriculture, you say, look, I will build the entire drainage system. That is on me. It is what allows me to own 30% of this business. I handle the drains. You handle the agriculture side. You handle the planting. Or a different person comes in and says, we've now sorted out our land preparation. Now let's go to some of the mechanization services required. Like planting on a large scale requires a planter. A planter is not cheap. Planting on a large scale requires like plowing, harrowing, all these different things that are required to be able, before you plant. That entire side needs to be managed by someone else, with tractors, with implements, with the requisite skills. Because when I started the farm, we got a set of tractors. I struggled to find tractor operators. Now on our farm, all our tractors are operated by women. We partnered with GIZ sometime earlier this year in August or September, and then we trained about 12 women in being able to operate tractors. My principal farm manager is a woman. She's also able to operate a tractor. Our mechanization lead is a woman. She also runs a tractor. Now, what is happening is all of these people are educated. Exactly. When we opened up our tractor mechanization options, we had an MBA student coming to learn to operate a tractor. And guess what? Amongst the students, it is evident that when you have educated people operating tractors, the tractors last longer, they are more effective, the job just looks clean. Prior to this training, what was happening was the tractor operators are not educated. They cannot even speak English. They don't have an understanding of what you're doing. They don't understand the mechanics of a tractor. How do you expect them to be efficient? So it's not even enough to be able to own tractors and implements. We need to train our people, or some of us need to get more involved in being like, I have learned to operate a tractor. I have learned to operate an excavator. I've learned to operate a backhoe. I'm not going to sit on my oars, because we realize you don't buy a $50,000 car and leave it in the hands of an uneducated mechanic. Yet, on our continent, we put our $50,000, $60,000 tractors in the hands of people who have not even been educated. And so these are some of the real challenges that you will see. We need tractor operators. We don't only need tractors, we need tractor operators, people who understand what it means to grow rice on a large scale. Because as it stands today, like, we will probably be operating the largest rice farm probably in the next 12 to 24 months, I think. And all the larger rice farms are not owned by Ghanaians. They're owned by Brazilians, Indians, Thai people. I don't know what they're called. People from Thai. There we go. So when I think about that, you're like, no, Africa cannot move forward if more of the youth don't get involved. So the gaps are there. They are real. And the only hope I have in being able to fill these gaps, because look, along the entire way, there's the same problem. Like, I have that problem with land preparation. There are not enough tractors in the system. Like I said, our farm is pretty big. You need a tractor the size of 110, 120 horsepower. The biggest tractor in our entire area with 3,000 farmers is about 65 horsepower. I need twice that power to grow rice on the commercial scale at which I am doing it right now. So that's another example. On the seed production side, for instance, we don't have seeds. So what we are doing now as a company is we're actually growing our own seed. So we have demarcated a part of our own land from the first seed that we bought from them. We bought certified foundation seeds. They're way more expensive than the traditional seed. But we realize that at the scale at which we're going, we don't want to be dependent on any government policy or any government politically motivated person for our production. So we moved from that, and then we started producing by ourselves. Now, when it even comes to harvesting, for the size of our rice farm, because most of them are smallholder farmers, they have 1 hectare, 2 hectares, 3 hectares at most. And so they have these small combine harvesters that can harvest maybe about 4 hectares in a day for a full day's work. Now, I am doing 25 hectares on one plot. Like, one plot being, I did all of that work in about a week. So when it's time for me to harvest, I needed to bring in 3 different combine harvesters to come harvest on one field, because the entire 3,000 farmers in that area depend on a few combine harvesters, which are not big enough for industrial size production or commercial level production of rice. And so along the entire, but you see, the thing is, the challenge I'm having here is I'm having to invest along the entire value chain, which is unfortunate.
That was what I was going to ask you.
You see, because initially I was sponsoring farmers, 25 of them. It was a headache because, first of all, the roads are not great. So we couldn't even get to visit all the 25 farmers in a week, which is just like, what? Just 25. And I'm looking to get to 2,000. So I had hired about 3 people in the area, and they still couldn't get, because you don't just visit the farm and leave. You have to visit the farm and engage with what's happening, make sure that everything that was said to be done is being done. So when you have such a challenge, you just cannot fathom, how do we scale if this is this bad? So that was what pushed us to go acquire our own land, so that we could move all of them to a more central location to make oversight a lot easier. But here I am with all being faced with a different level of challenge, which is the mechanization tools I need to be able to scale up my production is unavailable. Now, let me top that up. When I'm even done producing and I harvest, which I had 3 people come in, 3 combine harvesters come in at the same time. After that, now there was no way to put all what I'd harvested, because there was not a truck big enough to now carry my produce to the location to be dried. So again, I had to go hire about 3 different tractors and have them go back and forth during this period. Now, when you get to my counterpart, the current largest rice farm, which is the Brazilian farm, when you get there, they have an equipment. They offload it straight from the combine harvester into a tipper truck. It moves to a certain location, tips over, and then it goes right into a drying machine. But guess what I have to do? First off, every time they are harvesting, I need to get a sack, hold it out so that they harvest and put it in the sack. Then I put it down and tie it one after the other. Now, each of my hectares are producing about 6 tons. That's 6,000 kilos of rice. That is 1 hectare. When I'm doing 25 hectares on one plot, you understand how many of these sacks, and because a sack can take about 60 kg.
Yeah, 50, 60.
I need 100 of those sacks.
That's a lot of manual work.
It is ridiculous.
Nana, let me get something straight. What is the issue? I just want to get clearly what the issue is. Is it that we don't have enough people collaborating within the supply chain, or we don't have the facilities, or what is really the problem?
All of the 2 and the 3 and the more of it.
Let me add one more, and I'm not cutting you short. From everything that she's saying, you're talking about lack of training, mechanization, the skilled labor and stuff. I want to ask you this question. You did training for the female operators to operate your tractors from the GIZ, which is a German institute thing. What is the government of Ghana doing with a Ghanaian like you?
Don't get it twisted. That program, I contacted GIZ by myself. In fact, we just called
Wow.
GIZ because they had run a similar program. So my current principal farm manager, when we found her when I went to do a visit to somebody's farm. So I have this thing I do where whenever I want to get involved in something, similar to the mentor visit I did my first year, I always visit somebody who is there, and then I see what's going. So when I visited one of these guys, and I found this lady who was doing an internship there because she had been trained by GIZ, and at the time they trained about 60 women. Now, when she even graduated from the program, though she had graduated from the program, she had not used a tractor for more than 30 minutes. Nor has she worked on a commercial farm. So what I realized is, okay, this program is good, but I think it needs to be done a little differently. Yeah. At this time, Brown, what was your question again? I was trying to get to a point.
I'm asking
what is the government of Ghana doing?
Yes, I mean, any enough policy or something, because if you have to contact a German NGO or something for something that is a Ghanaian base, a Ghanaian trying to feed the whole country and provide jobs and services and help people, it's much more.
You can't understand, huh?
That's what I want to. I want
to go to Ghana.
What I want to tell you is, the least said, the better.
Okay.
Because I've given you.
I think we won't finish today.
I've given you an idea of like what we require on our commercial size farms. It's beyond subsidizing fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's beyond even, government sometimes comes out and says, oh, we've brought in subsidized tractors. The tractors they'll bring in is like 55 horsepower. Like 55 horsepower is a tractor for a small holder farmer, which is fine, even if they were working. Now, if the government brings in 1,000 tractors, let's not get complicated. Just send 100 to each of the 10 regions, or now there are 16. When you get into a town that has 100 tractors, should it not be visible? Now, let us come. You go ahead, take a trip to Ghana. Let's drive around and let's see, where are these tractors today? Where are these? Which companies or which farmers can say that we benefit from these government tractors? Do they have a particular color similar to taxis that when I see it, I can tell that this is something the government is doing? And now you sit back and think to yourself, look, I have done a lot of things in Ghana since I moved back. I moved back in 2012. This is 2021. It's been about 9 years.
9 years.
Look, trust me. There are very few things that can turn around the hopes of this country and on this continent beyond agriculture. Very few. I can't even think of one, to be honest. So you ask yourself, the government's involvement in agriculture today should not even be something we talk about late service. It's something that we should see in town, like we see taxis
evidently.
and Ubers. You don't ask yourself whether we have trotros in Ghana. Nor do you ask yourself whether, when there was a time when Kufuor had this MMT, we call them Kufuor buses. You could see them in town. Let us see the government involvement. Let's not talk about subsidizing fertilizer. Let's not talk about importing tractors from India. Let's get serious.
These are true things that are happening. And for me, these are things that I've been seeing. It's a trend along all the industries. People who are into waste management, people who are into the industries, farming, they are all saying the same story. So it's like the same trend throughout. And I think it's something that we should really look into, because if a company like this has gone past all these issues that are happening on a daily basis, right, and has been able to come out like this, it should get a lot of support. And my issue here is that Ghana or African countries are not countries where we can say that we rely more on other sort of businesses. Farming and agriculture forms like majority of the occupations. I mean, if you look at the supply chain, it's really, from fishing to the farms to animal farming to everything. It's involving a lot of people and providing food for a lot of individuals. And it's something that the government should really, put in a lot of efforts to support.
I think if we have to talk about the issues in the agricultural industry in Ghana, I think we will stay here forever. But there are a lot of issues going on in the world right now. And, one of them is climate change, which actually we've been hearing every day. And I know you produce you produce a lot of products. You talk about soya, you talk about rice, and I saw some other stuff. But I know rice farming is quite water intensive. It takes a lot of water. with the issue of climate change, the report from the IPCC, the Assessment Report 6, it says that there's a high confidence that the climate is going to change, and which will affect the precipitation pattern, it will affect the soil moisture, it will affect a lot of things. And with rise, depending on moisture, water, how do you think you're going to adapt to this situation from now till some time?
All right. So I'll touch a bit on what David said earlier, even about employment. Look, let me give you perspective. Every hectare of a rice farm employs approximately 5 to 8 people. Now, imagine that you're supporting 3,000 farmers who are working on about 3,000 hectares. That is 15,000 jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah, let me leave that there to your listeners to do the math.
Work the math.
So on the climate side, for us, for instance, water is big with rice production. And so one of the things that we are doing is harvesting rainwater. Because the climate change issue comes in, like even now on the farm, typically in November it would not have been as rainy. It's rained all through. The rainy season hasn't stopped here. So it's been raining so much, you don't even have the time to be able to prepare the land to plant. Because when the ground is wet, you are not able to operate as much. When there's water on the ground, we can work, but we can't work in mud. So it either needs to be very wet or dry. And so the lukewarmness of the ground is not helping. But that just speaks to the climate change issue we're talking about. Now, one of the things that we're doing now is rather than continue to complain about how much rain we are getting now, which is not helping some people or is creating floods, we are harvesting that rainwater. And we have continued to do that for a while. So we have like overflow locations for all this water to go to. With the plan we currently have in place and the way we kind of recycle even our wastewater, there should have been drought for 2 years for us to not have water to irrigate our farm. So we have built out the farm with 3 phases of water. Yeah, water like storage, which could last us about 2 years of drought for us to actually run out of water. And at that point, we are then able to tap into the Volta Lake, which is 6 kilometers, about 6.2 kilometers away from us. So you recognize that we have built out the farm with all these things intentionally in mind. And we don't only do that on the right side, we are trying to also contribute to good climate practices. And that's why we talk about things like soya bean. We're using a lot of the land that is clayey. So because it's clay land, it uses less water because a lot of the water is retained when you put it in the first time. So we do our best to continue to reduce the water that we use. And on top of that, like I said, we are also working with the university or the research institutes to produce better seeds that will use less and less water over time. So for instance, the Legon variety we use right now, that variety actually allows us to use a little less water than the usual jasmine rice that everybody consumes from time.
Nana, so earlier when you were talking, you made mention of bagging your rice. And, I know that on your website, you guys are exploring other products. You guys have this cereal rice. You are coming in with new product as well on your website. You have even animal packed in something and, those kind of things. Right from the farmland till your packaging of materials on the market, there are so many waste materials that comes. I mean, throughout the process, you generate waste in so many ways, different ways, organic, packaging and all that. Can you take us through, briefly, not maybe into details, what are some of the waste management methods that you're using probably to also circulate, the waste within the farm and also the ones that happen outside the farm?
Great question. And I think that even on this point, seeing that we're having this conversation, I'm going to assume you have some more solutions for us. Yes. So we've been very big. We've been very big on waste, especially animal waste. And like I said, a lot of that is used because what is considered waste from the animals is actually considered good food for the plants. So we do a lot of we process that. So we have like we call it a manure tea site. So all the waste from like our poultry, from our cows, sheep, goats, pigs is put into like this manure location, and then it's used to make manure tea to be able to, feed the plants. On the Besides that, we mainly reuse a lot of the sacks. So the sacks in which we bag our rice, most of it is just reused. So once it gets bagged, we take that same sack back and then we reuse those. On our packaging bags, again, we haven't done much with that. We've actually shipped that. We ship that out to the customer, so we don't know what happens there. What we have considered though is we spoke to a company that said that they produce recyclable package. So we've spoken to them and we've not yet gotten a quotation from them. They had spoken about being able to help us with our 1 kilo packaging, but not as much with our 5 kilo packaging. And so we need to do a lot better about on that side. Also with regards to the insecticide and the weedicide, we don't have any way that we any special way that we control that waste. We just make sure it's not on the farm to hurt like our other implements. So we will be curious to see if there are ways by which we could recycle or better use the containers in which those come in. Okay, for instance, the waste that comes from the rice when we mill it, we actually use it to power a milling machine. So we're hoping to import a milling machine that actually will use that husk to produce the power required to dry the rice to its right moisture content. So yeah, that's a fun. Our goal is to get to a point of zero waste.
The one thing that I really know, waste management, some people, some companies, they just really like to take care of their own waste. But waste doesn't end at the after production. Consumers also produce waste. If you can also manage to control your own waste, you should also manage to control your consumers' waste. So I'm thinking, is there any education for your consumers to know how to stop food waste? Because food waste is huge. All these methane gases from food waste and stuff, it adds to climate change, global warming and stuff. So do you have any education thing for your consumers? Because some people just want to waste food, and also which it causes food insecurity and all food scarcity and all, a lot of things. So how do you take this to when it comes to waste? Do you say, oh, on our packaging, we have something to say, consumers don't waste food, or educate consumers on food? Do you have these things in mind, or maybe in the future or something like that?
I think it sounds like a great idea. I think that what we have thought to do as a company is keep the data of our customers. So because we're doing things like we're producing rice, we're producing cereal, we're coming up with a juice. So what we hope will happen eventually, and we have this broader campaign, which is I Eat Local. And the goal with I Eat Local is I didn't say I eat stuff from Agro Kings or I eat stuff from Manes Rice. I think the goal for me is something larger than that. And our goal is to be able to have an ecosystem of people who care about things like eating local and things that we care about, like our impact driven stuff and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I think that may create a group of people that we can educate. You did bring a fantastic idea right now, which is we could have put on a package that do not waste food. Something as simple
Yeah.
as that.
Mm-hmm. As
So on our
simple as
packaging,
that.
we could always find a creative way to say, happy eating, do not waste food. Just so that people understand that this is something we are equally interested in or equally committed to as well. It's not something we have thought about actively. What I thought about doing at the moment was mainly just to build an ecosystem of people where we know that these are people who could hear us when we need them to hear us. Because at this stage in our company, in as much as you see all these things we're doing, we struggle to convince the Ghanaian customer to actually test us out. And so we've not even reached a point where we have a consumer or customer base that gives us enough of a voice. And so we hope to be able to, once we get to a certain stage of, because again, the company is only like 3.5 years old, right? So we hope to get to a certain stage where we are able to share things like that and then educate people more on that. And one thing that we have done is we haven't publicized it yet, but one of our goals is that almost every year we'll run a campaign on something that we think is important to us as a company, and then involve our customers or involve people who are well wishers, for lack of a better word. So, for instance, we could have decided to do our water filtration system in the town alone. What we decided to do is, listen, let's open it up for people. Let people know that, look, it costs $5,000. Our company has already put up $2,500. Are you willing to also contribute? Because for us, it was important for us to bring awareness to people that, look, 2 hours away from where you live, which is where most of our customers live in Accra, somebody doesn't have clean water, and bringing them to that reality. So I do think that we may be able to take up some of these suggestions, especially about putting something as simple as that on our packaging, and then sharing that with our customers. But yes, I'm always looking for more and creative ways to be able to share things like that.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah. Actually, going back to the previous question and what Brown mentioned, I would like to make a suggestion on the side as well. You made mention about how you guys use the animal droppings for fertilizer and all that. I think that if you have that in large quantities also, there is another area that you can also explore as a source of revenue, or I don't know, maybe something to power other things. That's biogas. It's a very, very, very viable technology that can also be exploited in that area. So this biogas system can be used actually for electricity, but as easy as it is, you can get the biogas to replace the LPG that we use at homes for cooking. And when it comes to the packaging, I think it's a very tricky area because, I mean, most of the sustainable packages that are coming in are sort of, a little bit pricey. So when it comes to packaging, it's always a very dicey area to go into. But I know that most of the people are diving into areas where they use plastics that are sort of on a high scale recyclable, right? Or probably using recyclable plastics. But I mean, I don't know where you get your raw materials from. But then, whatever be the case, if you want to enter into that area, then you have to probably do a little bit of research into companies providing materials that are sort of maybe recyclable. It's very difficult to control how people, use your materials and all those things. But the most important part is probably adding your voice to this education on not wasting food. I think that thing is a very nice area to explore. Okay, so when we get on your website, we also see another area that says a social commitment. I'm yet to ask you what project 5 versus 16 means, but then we would like to we would like to ask you a little bit about some of your business's contribution to socio-economic activities and some of the things that you are doing. I mean, you already mentioned some of these things, but I mean, specifically the things that you have mentioned under your social commitment on your website. I'd like you to highlight some of the some few things that you are doing in relation to this topic.
Okay, with regards to our social commitment, yes, I have spoken a bit about some of them. So it's Project 516, and 516, being a Christian, it actually comes from Matthew 5:16, which says that let your light so shine before men that they would see your good deeds and glorify God in heaven. And really, for us as a company, the idea here is we don't want to be in any community where they don't realize that we are different. And so, whenever we go into a community, if there are any challenges, we want to be able to contribute to trying to solve some of those challenges, and then let them know that we are of a different kind. And so that's really what Project 516 is. So, and that's a similar campaign, like I'm saying. So every year we want to go to undertake some of these larger campaigns where we do good in a community or do good somewhere where we know that it's not to any benefit to us directly. It's more to the benefit of others. And so for this year, for instance, 516, we are mainly working on providing clean water. In fact, the picture of the water you see on the website is actually the water they drink. It actually is the real water. I actually just pulled up the website to be clear on what we had put out there. Yes, but that is the color of the water they drink. You cannot even tell what exactly the color, whether it's red, whether it's wine, whether it's orange. It's
crazy.
a sight to behold. And so one of the things we're doing now is the water project, and that's almost completed. We'll probably launch it maybe by Christmas, so as the Christmas present to the people in the town. We are working on toilet facility, like I said. The population in the area is a little over 1,000 people. And so we are providing them with an 8-seater toilet facility so that they could also prevent open defecation within the town. And we hope to build out a couple of those in that community. And then, of course, with our climate action in terms of planting of our trees, we hope to not just plant those trees, but we also want to educate the people in the town the need or the necessity for us to plant more trees. So there's a bit of what we are doing, and then we also encourage other people in that area to be able to do the same thing. And of course, Our commitment to empowering women is also a big deal for us. We continue to do that. Out of the 12 people that we sent to GIZ, all of them have actually gotten internship opportunities. We personally retained about 6 of them ourselves, and so they are already working with us, and they're doing really well. And yes, I'm sure you've heard this before, but over 60% of our management team is actually female.
Yeah.
And that's a very important thing. Very important. In fact, the exact number is about 70. Really, of the 7 of us on the top level management, only 2 of us, myself included, are actually male. Everybody else is actually female, from general manager. And this does not even include our principal founder. This is like top level management, so like COO, CEO, finance stuff. So we are very big on that, and we realize that they just tend to do a pretty good job at taking care of the company and taking care of our equipment. And then recently, actually, just on our just ended retreat, our principal fire manager again came up with this amazing idea, which I am super excited about. So she committed to going into the township, and into all the schools in our town. There are about 3 of such basic schools, and she's going to actually talk to them. So she, as the principal fire manager, is going to talk with them about 3 times. She's going to have 3 programs with all these schools a year. And she's going to just empower the women on things they can do, vocations they could learn. And then she's going to go through this wheel of life that I had taken them through at the retreat. So I took them to, I identified 7 areas of someone's life. He said, look, she's going to take what I have empowered them with, and she's going to come up with a simpler version and then work with all the basic schools in our area. And then, take them through that wheel of life, and then also just talk to them about who they are and who they can be. And direct them in whichever vocational area they can. So that's really exciting for me, because she did recognize that some of them are just getting pregnant. Some of the young ladies, when they get done with school, they just get pregnant. And so she, being moved, decided to take on this project, which I'm super excited about. So I'm sure you'll be seeing that come live on our website once we figured out how that'll be happening. And then, yes, of course, rural employment. So we are very big on empowering the people within the township. So we don't go out to look for like people who live in Accra first. Our first point of call is empowering people locally to be able to gain the necessary experience, and then start to work as well. So yeah, that's a bit about our social commitment. And again, we'll continue to update that list or that sheet.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
We may have to bring I think one thing that we think may come up next year is security. So we may have to bring a police station to that township, because the closest police station to that area is about 40 minutes away. And so we realize that sometimes to ensure law and order in a community, you do need things like, policemen, clinics. So there's a small clinic out there. We may be able to improve that clinic a little bit. So these are some things that we're going to start out. All our social commitment for a period is going to come from the people right around us before we go beyond that to other areas.
And I know we've been talking about good things your company has been doing, the social development and economic development stuff. To be very sustainable, to be a sustainable company, you should be transparent. I know you've been doing projects in communities and stuff. You have your farm, it's in a community, it's part of a community. I want you to transparently share with us, do you have any problems? I mean, for farming in a specific community? Because I know not everybody has the same idea. What is good for you, or what you think is good? You are farming, you're providing services, you are providing financial means to some people, building roads, water, and stuff. But some people in the community have different minds. This is stakeholder engagement.
Yes. So even in the good we do, we always have an uphill battle. When we started working on the water filtration system, even the public toilet we're building out, the chiefs they were not particularly happy, because for them, we should have gone through them. We should have given them the money to do the work. So we get a lot of those kinds of complaints. People feel like, why did you choose to position the first one here and not at this other location? So we get some of those kinds of problems where traditionally, someone like me just like, look, we need to get the work done. Like, I'm not here for all your traditional bring schnapps before, let us pour the schnapps before we start.
Yeah.
I'm not all about stuff like that. So I do have a piece of that, even with the good that we do. Beyond that, though, we have had complaints from people like, why don't we pay them more money? Because, for instance, there is a company close to us. In fact, we share a border with a company called Golden Exotic Farms, and Golden Exotic Farms is one of the farms of a larger company from France called Compagnie Fruitière, and they produce a lot of banana and they just export all of it. Now, of course, that company is about 13 years old in Ghana, and Ghana is one of their smallest farms. So a company like that pays the workers a lot more than we pay our workers. So some of them think that, hey, why are you not paying us more than what we are getting elsewhere? So people think we are cheating them. Some people also were not happy about the people who were being trained by GIZ. Some of them complained about, why didn't we just select 12 women from the town to be able to engage in women in tractor operating? Some of them feel like some of our operators that we have, they are not all from the town. We took some from the town and some from out of town. And so who we employ is one of the challenges we have. And again, to be transparent about that, it's not that we don't, of course, why would I want to pay and bring somebody all the way if people in the town are actually willing? But what I think has happened in the town is there's a sense of entitlement where they feel like because we live here, we must get a job. That's not the case. We are very results oriented. We are very, impact oriented. So when you come in and you're not doing the job well, you can be fired. And some of them have been fired. So some people come to work, and because their homes are close by, because their families are close by, we bring you in to come and do a job, and before we know it, you're actually at home. So some of them have gotten fired on this premise. So we do have a few people that are in that category. We do have some people that also complain about their money not coming through because financial inclusion is a problem in that area.
Yeah.
So you want to pay somebody using mobile money, then the person says, hey, no, don't pay through my account. Pay through this other person's account because I have already taken a loan on my account, and so you can't pay me through that. And so all these issues that we have. And again, we work in a community that a significant part of them are also not very literate.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's a challenge communicating with them some of the challenges or some of the things that you think if they did, it could mitigate those challenges. But I think that the good part of the hope for me is we have a pretty good relationship with some of the municipal heads. So like the assemblyman, we have a pretty good relationship with. Some of the chiefs as well, we do have a good, it's not all of them. But we continue to try to improve that relationship with them. And I have been clear with them that, look, we don't want to be like, some of them just complain about banana farm, like the Good Exotic Farm, that, hey, since they've been here, they've only given us 3 boreholes. And for them, they may not realize that may not be the business model of the company. They have paid you for the land on which they are working and they are doing their work. They are not entitled to provide you with clean water and things like that. And so, yeah, but these are the challenges I have heard so far. Before we did the road, people complained that why are we in an area we have not done the road? I don't even understand why they think that it is my job to do a road leading to my farm just because I have a farm in the area. So we do have some of those challenges, but I think to a large extent we are okay. I mean, we face these challenges, but they're not. We've not had any crazy, we want to drive you guys out type of situation. And another thing that we have done, when we were acquiring the land, we did agree with the townspeople that what we were going to do is create an area where if anybody in that town was a good rice farmer or was a good farmer, they could come and work on our land and then buy the produce from us. We will buy the produce from them. So they have a path to potential economic liberty if they continue to work with us, because we don't depend on government irrigated lands. Our lands are irrigated ourselves. So if even the government, wherever you're working now, has a challenge, you will be able to work on our farm. So I think that those are some of the things that have kept the voices low.
Okay, we've spent a lot of your time. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. But before we let you go, you are doing an amazing job. And I think that you really have to be commended on the job that you're doing. You need support. So let us know, what are some of the things that lies in the future of Agro Kings, and how can people collaborate with you?
again, we thank you very much, first of all, for your kind words, but we are along the entire value chain. Like at any point in time, somebody's thinking anything and great, I'm sure there's a part of our company that we could do a collaboration on. From as little as owning a truck and working with us on our distribution side, it's helpful. It can be as simple as, listen, just tell your friend that, hey, how about you try eating local? How about you try ordering from Nana's Rice? And then continue to give us feedback about what your experience is. Nobody lights a candle and put it under a basket, is one of our views. And so, how about you go ahead and share that with the rest of the world, with your network? Thankfully, we are going to start exporting to other countries. And so, if we are already in your country, yes, how about you help us let other people know about the product? One of my most important assets at the moment is human capital. And so, for people to be able to come back and commit to helping us, because what the challenge oftentimes is people who have the ability to help are not willing to take a certain kind of salary, which we cannot sustain because then it makes our product too expensive. So sometimes it's up to people to be able to come in and say, hey, you know what? I understand that you're not able to pay. For instance, we have two farm managers who are from Brazil. Even the Brazilian working with us says we pay him a part of his salary now, and a part of his salary is paid whenever we harvest, because he understands that, okay, that is the cycle of the business. And so that we are not locking money in just our human capital. So sometimes people should be able to come in and say, hey, you know what, I'm willing to do this work for you guys. In the first 6 months, we maybe not be able to pay my full salary, but in month number 6, I think I would appreciate if the rest of it is paid, or you're able to delay it or give it as a loan to the company as we continue to scale up production. So there are different assets or facets within which somebody wants to, if somebody wants to help, it's possible.
Agro Kings is really the future for Africa's sustainable agriculture. And I'm really looking forward that there's going to be lots of collaboration henceforth. And you've been through it all. And I just want to ask you one question, one last question. If you have the chance, if you do have the chance to make a change in this particular industry you find yourself, what do you think would be? Or let me rephrase it. What is the one thing that you think this industry needs?
We need Ghanaian acceptance and encouragement. I think that if there's one thing that I wish changed in this industry, was just Ghanaians appreciating what it means to grow locally and what it means to eat locally. I think that would make a major difference, because it affects the entire value chain. Like, what is more difficult is to go through all this wahala, deliver the product to a client, and then his first question to me is, why is your product more expensive than another type of imported rice brand? And my question to you is the price of a Kia Picanto and a Kia Morning the same as the price of a Mercedes Benz A class? You know, it is such a, and you know that, because the reality for me here is, look, our rice is considered a little bit more expensive than the other local rice brands, because local rice is probably about 35 cedis, which is approximately $6, right? Now that rice is not just long grain; it's long and short mixed together, like the local one. They don't grade it the way we do. We grade it, and I've created a grade 1 and a grade 2. So our rice is in two different packs, right? So we sell one for 45, which is like $7, right? You'll be surprised, for that $1 difference, people would insult us. That's what I bought local rice the last time, it was 6 cedis. Why $6? Why is yours $7? And my point is, because the quality is not the same. The quality is not the same. The variety is not even the same. You know, the packaging is not the same. And you see, what is beautiful to experience is to work hard and get back, and the people embrace you. It makes the work or the journey worth it. But when you finish working this hard and you get to the Ghanaian, and the Ghanaian insults you that, yeah, I like my import, or you don't use local rice for a party. Like, you know,
Do they really say that?
yeah.
Wow.
I mean, people have said that prior to trying our rice. And so that has been, but yes, I think that it has made it a very uphill battle. You know, because again, like I told you, I'm going to struggle to spend 50,000 cedis on billboard advertising or TV advertising, when I know that that money could help 1,000 people in the rural area. I would rather just Ghanaians just embrace ourselves so that our money could be put to better use than me chasing imported rice brands who have huge budgets for marketing. So yeah, that would be it for me.
To be honest, I was actually expecting an answer around this kind of acceptance. I think this is where education comes in. Ghanaians and I mean ourselves, we really need this form of education to embrace ourselves. I think we still live in this kind of mindset that things coming from us as it cannot be good, or things coming from us should be a certain standard or something like that. And it's the same thing happening. I had an interview with someone in the fashion industry, and this is what is happening with the fashion industry, where products are being produced and within the supply chain, someone is cheating somewhere, which makes the end product cheaper than it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So if you're
Yep.
comparing such a product to a product that is using a clean and sustainable means to produce and making its end product a little bit expensive than the other one who is cheating, then it's not on the same level. But I think customers should rather be educated to think twice. Why is this one cheaper than the other? It's the same thing with products in China. They ask you, what is your budget? Yes, what is your budget? If you tell the person the budget, there is a particular type that is going to give to you. Exactly. And if you give him a higher budget, he's going to give you a product that is worth your money. And I think this is sort of an education that we really, really need in Ghana. And it has been tagged that Chinese phones and Chinese products are not good. But go
But so
around
is the
and check.
MacBook that I use. The iPhone is also from
Exactly.
China.
Exactly. All the original ones are also produced here. So where did you get yours?
Yep.
So I think, Nana, we will all put our hands together and our heads together to join in this campaign. But really, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for making time for this podcast. And I hope that this conversation will keep continuing, and we're going to see the fruits of it. But really, thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the platform.
I really, really enjoyed this conversation. You breaking everything down, the supply chain, the issues, what you're doing, and everything. I know I could see it's very challenging. That I'm so happy and so motivated that you are putting a fight to this. And so I would say keep it up. And then, as David said, we will get together and support the campaign to do sustainable and promote sustainable agriculture in Ghana and beyond. So what I want to say is you're not alone in this fight. So
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Green Living Chat podcast. This initiative is to educate and create awareness on things that really matter. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments as we get interactive on our social media platforms at Eco Solutions on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you would like to be part of these conversations, contact us via email at glcpodcasts@ecoametsolutions.com or see our contact details in the show notes. See you on the next episode, and remember, live green.